Okay, cool. So we're going to cover in-app messaging, designing nice messages, and we're also going to look at a preview of some product releases over the next couple of weeks. Okay, cool. We got a lot of people online now, so we can get started. Let me just share my screen. And I'm just going to turn off my camera so it doesn't get in the way of the presentation. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so we're going to look at designing attractive in-app messages. And this is what the agenda looks like. I'll give you a bit of a quick introduction to myself, and we'll look at some dashboard UX improvements that are coming out in the next couple of weeks. So you'll get a nice preview of that. We'll look at designing in-app messages, and I'll share some helpful resources at the end that will help you design those in-app messages yourself. Okay, so a bit of an introduction to myself. I'm design director at OneSignal. My name is Munroe, and my role at OneSignal, I look after the user experience of the product. So every feature that we release, everything that we do in the product, it goes through a design process from user research to designing out the flows and the user interface, and then following up with usability testing and making sure that what we have shipped is looks good and is easy to use. So today's focus is going to be mostly on product. I also look after the brand design and brand direction and the website as well. So diving in, okay, so this is, I want to give you a bit of a preview to some improvements that you're going to notice over the next couple of weeks. So whenever we release new features, we also have a parallel track that we try to improve our user experience based on the feedback that we get from users. So that's talking to you guys, that's talking to our support team, our sales team, and observing our users through usability tests. So we're always looking to improve what's there already, as well as shipping new features. So I'm going to share some of those things with you. We've got three things I want to share: switching between apps, changes to the new message form, and outcomes and changes to the message report. Okay, let me dive in here. So switching between apps, this is something we released recently. So you'll notice it if you go to your OneSignal dashboard today. A lot of users have lots of apps in their account. So it might be that you have many apps that you're managing in OneSignal, or it might be that you separate your app into multiple apps because maybe you want one for mobile and you want one for web. And most users have at least one development app and one production app. And we often see our users switching between these apps. We've made it easier to switch between these apps by shipping this app switcher. So you'll see it in the top bar when you go up there. It makes it easier to switch between your apps so you're not getting lost where you are. So that's something we shipped last week, so you'll be able to see that today and should make your life easier. The second thing I want to share is something that we will be shipping over the next couple of weeks. So this is a UX improvement to the compose message screen. So OneSignal offers a lot of flexibility and a lot of powerful features when it comes to composing your message. We support a lot of platforms, and for each of those platforms, there are different switches and bells and whistles that you can configure. But what we noticed is that 99% of the time, our users just want to send a message and get the message out there. They aren't typically looking at these other fields. So what you're looking at here is an improvement to this page. Today, it's a big long form that has a lot of fields. So we're hiding a lot of those fields under these settings toggles. So there'll be a platform settings toggle where you can hide and show that, and that's where all the platform settings will be. And then there's an advanced settings where you can find more settings. Because we're adding these toggles, we're also moving some important fields up. So we still have the title and the message here, but the launch URL will be moved up. So it's more obvious that you should complete this launch URL. And we're introducing this image field so that you can upload a primary image for your notification. So we find that if you add an image to your notification, that it performs a lot better. The click-through rate is so much more higher when there's an image involved. So we want to help incentivize you by reminding you that here's an image field. You should probably upload an image if you have one available. And the last thing to point out here is this send to test device button. Whenever you want to test the message today, you select your test users and you send the message. Unfortunately, that means you send the message, then you have to go back, duplicate that message if you want to make edits, and then send another message. It's rather cumbersome to test messages today. By introducing this send to test device button, you'll be able to do it as you're composing the message. So that will help you test these messages and send them as you're composing them, writing them, as you're adding the image and adding the launch URL. So you can be really certain about that message that you're about to send. Okay, and the last thing I want to share with you as a preview are outcomes and changes to the message report. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. So this is, you've sent a message and then you've opened the report view. So what details do you get on that message? So let me walk you through some stuff that's going on here. So delivered and the click-through rate. These are numbers that we give you today, and we're just moving them up a bit. We're making them more obvious because we know these are numbers that you care about. So we want to make it really, really clear where you can find those numbers. Over here, we've got a thing called influenced opens. So this is a new feature, and it's going to be available to people who are on paid accounts. So an influenced open, whenever you send a message and a user taps on a notification and opens your app, that would be considered a direct open, a direct click-through rate. But a lot of the times we find that the end user isn't necessarily tapping on the notification and opening your app. Maybe they're in a meeting, maybe they have to wait till later in the day to open the app. So if a user was to return to their mobile device, open up your app within a 24-hour window of you sending this notification, we would count that as an influenced open. Now I say 24 hours, but that number, that time period will be configurable because we know that depending on what sort of app you have, it might be 24 hours or it might be 10 minutes. You might want to count an influenced open in a different way. So this is something that's going to be shipping very soon. This will be available to people who are on our paid plans. And we're going to be doing a follow-up in the next couple of weeks that will talk more about influenced opens. I really just wanted to give you a sneak peek today. Moving on down to this chart. Today, what happens when you look at this screen, you'll see clicks. So you'll see all the clicks over time that you got. Now we're going to be releasing a very powerful feature soon called outcomes. So outcomes allow you to track custom events. So here you can see I've got this other event that I've called purchased. Okay, so to track purchased, I would have made a call via my mobile SDK or the web SDK. So let's say a user went through a checkout process and they bought something. Whenever at that point in time, when they buy something, I would make this web SDK call and say OneSignal outcome purchased. That will track the event for me. So I know that that purchase came directly from the message that I sent. So instead of just tracking clicks, we're tracking these outcomes and goals all the way through end to end. So different use cases for that would be e-commerce. You want to track purchase. You might want to track the amount that they've purchased. You might want to see what pages they visited, how long they visited a page for, whether they shared an article, things like that. So this feature is going to be very powerful. It's going to let you track all these outcomes, these goals, these events that you want to see. Okay, I sent a message. What happened after I sent that message? we're not just tracking clicks anymore, we're going to be tracking these outcomes. So again, we're going to do a follow-up webinar on this. This will be a powerful feature that launches in the next couple of weeks. So we want to make sure that we do an in-depth webinar on that, and there'll be a lot of docs and there'll be more information available about that. For now, I just wanted to give you a sneak preview of what's coming up. And the last thing I'll point out here is some changes to the information we display on these reports. So we're going to be introducing this platform statistics chart so you can see the breakdown of the different platforms that received your notification. And also not visible here, but we're also going to include the preview of the notification. So it's very obvious that you can see the notification that produced this report. Okay, so these are all sneak preview of user experience improvements that are coming in the next few weeks. Again, we're going to do a follow-up webinar on this so that we can really dive into outcomes and influenced opens. Okay, so just let me check here, make sure there's just going back to Zoom, make sure everyone can still hear me okay and we're still on track. Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Share my screen again. Cool, okay. So let's get on to the main topic of today's conversation is designing in-app messages. So in-app, this is a feature we released recently, and it allows you to send your users these in-app messages on iOS and Android devices. So the beauty of in-app means you don't need to get your users to opt in, just like you have to for push. You can send any user that's using your app, and as long as you have our SDK installed in your app, then you can make use of these in-app messages. I mean, we make it really simple, really easy to design these in-app messages, and we're going to look at today some tips and tricks on how to design them. One of the other big benefits of using us for in-app messages means you don't have to go through an app store review, or don't have to get developers involved to send these messages. You simply go to our dashboard, create a new message, and send, and it's live. Okay. If you didn't have OneSignal, the process would look more like, hey, developers, I've got an update to terms, or I've got a new welcome message, or I've got a feature that I want to announce. Can you include this modal? They would have to develop it. Then there would be some turnaround time required for the App Store submission and review process. With OneSignal, you get to skip all that. You get to make it live within, instantly. So some other use cases for in-app, App Store ratings, so prompting your users to review you in the App Store. Push notification opt-in prompts, so you can target people who maybe haven't opted in for push, and you can prompt them to opt in. Welcome and onboarding messages, transactional messages, e-commerce, and promotional. So these are different use cases, and we're going to look at a couple of examples here. The elements that you can control in-app messages, you can control the location, so you can make it top, bottom, center, or full screen. The title, the color, the size, and the alignment. The message, the color, size, alignment. The button, color, size, and alignment. And you can add one image, and you can add a background. So there's a lot of different things you can play with here and configure. So we're going to look at a mix of different examples. Just a preview of some things that we're going to end up producing in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to bounce now over to my demo environment. And yeah, just a heads up, we will be doing Q&A at the end of the session. So I'll make sure that we have some time to answer your questions at the end. So yeah, feel free to keep those questions coming in, and I'll make sure they're addressed at the end. Okay, cool. So here we are in the OneSignal dashboard. And I'm going to go to my messages, and I'm going to go to my in-app tab. So you can see here that I've got some paused in-app messages here already. I'm going to create a new in-app. I'm going to start with something pretty basic. I'm going to start with an app store rating example. Okay, so there might be a certain time when I want to trigger an app store rating, and so maybe it's maybe after the user has done something successful, and we know they're successful using our app, or they've done something nice that they can celebrate with. So you might want to set a trigger, and you can set triggers where maybe success equals true, right? That would be something that you would trigger in your app. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to remove that and keep going. But there's different configurations you can play with for triggers. Maybe it's a session duration. So I don't want to immediately prompt users to rate my app in the App Store because they haven't played with my app yet. So maybe I'll want to put in like a certain amount of seconds. So you can play with these different triggers for when you prompt them. So first thing I'm going to do here is give them a message name. So let's say App Store rating. And let's say I have both an iOS app and an Android app. I'll probably want to create two different messages for that. So maybe this is the iOS App Store rating. And in that case, I would have to also target a particular segment. So I would create a segment or find a segment that I've created earlier that targets iOS only. And then I would create a similar message for Android. And the reason I would do that is because the URL is going to be different depending on what platform you're on. Okay, so I'm going to make this a center modal, and I'm going to say something like, how are we doing? And reminder here, this is where you can control the color, the size, and the alignment of your text. And rate us in the App Store. Okay, so very basic so far. We've got some really basic colors going on here for default. I think from a design perspective, it's always important to have some hierarchy in there. So you usually want your heading to be a bit bigger and from your message text, or you might want to flip it around, but there should be some sort of hierarchy in there. And I'm going to upload an image. So here's an image I prepared earlier where I find some stars. Okay, so 5 stars. So we want to incentivize them to give us a 5-star review, right? So this is very basic, but it already looks pretty good. So if I was to, let's see, for the click URL, I would want to then link that to the App Store so the user can start the review. So it's going to be something like itunes.apple.com/ whatever my app name is or app ID. I would have to look that up exactly, but it would be something to that effect, something that directs the user to the App Store so they can review. And then I could put in a button if I wanted to. So maybe the button would be like not now, and maybe that's a bit obnoxious in your face. So I could make it white, make the color blue, or maybe gray and subtle, so it's smaller. Not now. Okay. So when the user receives this, if they tap on the stars, are going to be taken to the App Store to review, or they can click on the button, and to dismiss the button on click, you activate this advanced feature here. So this is dismiss on click. So I want to make sure that that's on. So not now will dismiss Now, this looks pretty basic. Okay, we haven't done a lot to change things here. I think something that's important is remaining on brand. So I'm sure most of you out there have some colors or some brand guidelines. And so typically you'll want to make sure that maybe your heading matches your brand color. So maybe it's purple, and maybe you have another color, like a secondary color that you like to use for text. Now we have a static image there. Something I want to point out is the ability to use GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you like to pronounce it. So we support GIFs and animation, and supporting GIFs, it's another way to add delight and to help attract users to tap on those images. So in this case, here's a GIF that I found earlier. And again, I'll share some design resources at the end so you can see how I sourced these designs. But this helps bring this in-app to life. A next step would be preview on the test device, and I can send it to my own device and make sure that it looks good, and I'll check my device and see that it looks good before I make it live. Okay, so very simple App Store rating here. Again, if you wanted to send this to both iOS users and Android users, the flow would be create an in-app message, add a segment that targets just iOS users, probably set a trigger, either something that is after a certain amount of time, or maybe a certain point in time within your user experience that you want to present the user with this. Create your iOS message, make sure that goes to the iOS App Store, and then you would make that live. Then you would create another message, you would add a segment for Android users. Again, set your triggers, you would make it the Android App Store rating, and then that would go to the Google Play Store. Now, something to note that in-app messaging, we offer one free live in-app message if you're on a free account, and then paid users get to add more. So if you wanted to have at least 2 of these live, you'd have to upgrade to a paid account. But if you're on a free account, you can still take advantage of this by having one live in-app message. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so this is pretty basic. We've got some hierarchy in here. We've got a GIF, and let's play with something else. So imagine that I want to offer my users some delight. And let's say I have a coffee store, and I've got an app for my coffee store. And I know when it's their birthday, so I want to do a happy birthday message. Okay, so happy birthday, and maybe I want to give users something free on their birthday. So have a free donut on us, pick it up today when you order coffee. Okay, so I own this coffee store. I'm going to give users a free donut when they order a coffee. Now, let's get back to talking about our brand style guide. So I probably want to use specific colors for my type. So imagine that I'm a coffee shop. One tool that I like to use is this website called Coolers. Okay, so it helps you generate these style guides and these color palettes. So you can go to Coolers, you can explore, it gives you a nice color palette to work with. So if you don't want to think about colors too much, you can come here and you can pick up some colors. Or you might already have those brand style guides, those colors established. If you do, you should use those. If you don't, you want to do some discovery. Let's say we search for coffee. I should see some nice coffee color palettes showing up here. Okay, here we go. So these are nice coffee palettes, and Well, let's go with, there's a lot of browns in there. Maybe we want something that's more like, there's like more of a Starbucks type color palette. So let's open that up. Okay, so we got some nice colors going on here. And yeah, let's go with, okay, I want to copy this. So this is the hex code that I want to copy. So I copy that and go back over here. I'm going to make my heading this color. And then my next text, I want to make it this shade. So go back over here and I'm going to make it this color. A lot of the times, you probably find yourself like guessing colors and playing around with the color palette, which is fine and fun. But if you come to something like coolers, you get to pick colors that other designers have already identified as nice color palettes. So a lot of the time, I'll just cheat and do that. It saves a lot of time. For my image, so this is something I created earlier. I created this lovely image of a donut holding hands with a coffee cup. Okay, so this is an example of this is an illustration, and this is like flat design. And you can't go wrong with something like this, where it's a nicely designed flat illustration. And again, I'll share some resources for getting designs like this. This is something I downloaded online. I didn't design it, didn't spend hours doing this myself. It literally just took 1 minute of searching for it and downloading it. But it looks pretty good, right? So we got our donut here, we got our coffee cup. And then I probably want to take them to a landing page and like track some stuff. So, maybe I want to say claim now, and I'm going to make the background. I'm going to go back to my color palette, and just to be in line, I'm going to choose this shade of brown and go back here. I'm going to change the button color to brown, and I want to change use this pastel gray color for the copy. So I go here, and I'm going to want to make that a little bit bigger. Cool. So happy birthday, have a free donut on us. Pick it up, claim now. Okay. You'll probably want to put some landing page in here. That's something of the effect like landing page URL / and then track your UTM parameters so you know like how that performs. I've also got a background option here. Okay, so just to add an extra layer of polish, I played around with another graphic earlier that was this kind of sunset style. So I can add this background to my in-app message, and okay, it's just loading. Once it's loading, we should see it fully render. It's a bit of a, looks like I saved it very large, probably too large. There we go. Okay, so happy birthday. And we've got a nice big button here, and we've got these nice friendly people here. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, there's a quick question. Can we add GIFs to the background? Yes, you can. Yeah, and I'll be showing you an example of how to do that. Cool. So this is our nice coffee example here. Now, what if I wanted to create a message that's like an onboarding or welcome message? Okay, so I've got users that sign up to my app, and I want to say, hey, welcome. First things first, let's do this. Okay. So let's call this a welcome message. And imagine that I'm running a photo sharing app. Okay, something that's like store photo storage in the cloud. So maybe I'm like, okay, welcome. Get started saving your family vacation photos in the cloud forever. Okay, so some generic welcome message, welcome to our app. And again, let's look at actually, let's start with the background this time, okay? So here's an example. I wanted to show you some examples of what you can do with these different graphics. So I created this gradient earlier. So this is a simple gradient that goes from a shade of purple to blue. Okay, so I can upload that, and that will add a nice gradient to background. All right, cool. So looks okay, but I can't see any of the text. So I'm going to have to play with the text a little bit, and same with the button. So let's first of all change our image. So I created an image that had 4 photos. So I've got this photo storage app. Okay, so I've got some landmark photos here. Nothing too crazy, pretty simple. Okay, so I'm gonna upload that image. Cool, so welcome, get started. And I've got a button. So the button that I want would be something like upload first photo, okay? And needs a bit more contrast, can't really see it there. For this, I'm going to just make the button white. And for the color, I'm going to show you, I'll show you another trick that I like to do to get colors. So in your browser, you have this, this is something that I do a lot. I can inspect elements. So if I inspect element, that brings up a thing called DevTools. And I can use a color picker that's included with DevTools to pick a color. So see this background color here? If I click on the swatch, it brings up this color picker. And then I can pick any color I like. So if I pick this blue, and copy that hex color, and then escape back out of that, I've got the hex color. So if I go back to my button color, I will paste that. And then I have this text color, which matches the background color. And so that's like a little trick. It's more of a developer tool trick. So if you're familiar with Chrome developer tools, that's something you can use to easily access colors. My alternative was I could have just guessed and played with the blue shades here until I got one that I liked. But I'm also going to, I need some more contrast up here. Again, we need good contrast. We need good hierarchy. Make sure it's legible. And the same for this. Okay. And because it's like a welcome onboarding message, maybe I'll make it like full screen. So welcome, get started. Saving your family vacation photos in the cloud forever. Upload first photo, and your upload would be, in this case, it might be a, let's see, it might be an action name. So it might have a trigger that's in my app that knows to trigger the upload prompt. So it'd be like, whatever that action is that you've named within your app. Then I would send it to myself, make sure it looks good. Okay. So there's another example. So we're using a background gradient, and you've got some nice photos, and this is a full screen onboarding message, and shared some tips there about how to select different colors. Now let's look at a couple more examples of somebody mentioned animated GIFs. So let's look at GIFs, because I know everyone likes GIFs. They add this extra layer of delight to your app experience, and I know users like that. So we've got Halloween coming up. So let's say we do a Halloween message. Okay, and I'm going to make it a center modal. I'm going to say Happy Halloween. We hope it is spooktacular. Okay. Maybe I've got an emoji in there. Make sure it's Halloween. Cool. And for the image, here's a Halloween GIF that I found earlier. Okay, so it's a cat in a pumpkin. There we go. Cat pops out of the pumpkin. Happy Halloween. Now you can see there's a border around this. That's because the GIF itself has a white background. So whenever you're dealing with the situation, you really want your photo to nicely transition into the background. So I'm going to remove that background image and just keep the background color to white, since the GIF had a white background. But of course, all my text changed then, so I need to figure out what color to change those. So I'm going to go back to my Coolers app. I'm going to search for here. I'm going to search for Halloween, get some nice spooky colors. Okay, it's taking a bit of time. So while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to remove the button. This time we don't need a button. It's just going to be Happy Halloween. You probably want to add some segments here. I'm sure there's users that are in the world that don't celebrate Halloween, so maybe you don't want to target them. Maybe you only want to target the US market. So you'd create some sort of segment that make sure that you target the people that you want to target with this message. Okay, some cool Halloween colors here. Let's go with this first one here. Nice. And let's go for purple and orange. So I copy this hex code. Go back here, make the title text purple and orange. Cool. Make that a little bit larger. Cool. Happy Halloween. We hope it is spectacular. There's your GIF. Okay, one more that I'll show you, and just a tip on adding animations to the background. I know someone asked about that. So let me show you another GIF that I've got here. So we've got a fireworks GIF, okay? So I'm going to add that to the background. So that adds some cool stuff to the background there. We've got these fireworks going on. And I'm going to remove the image because we've got a lot going on in the background. And let's say, I don't know, maybe this is just a congrats message. Congrats. Congrats. You uploaded your first photo. And I'm just going to make these white. Okay, pretty cool. Maybe it's a bit small. Okay, so here's a trick where I want to make this bigger, but there's no controls to make this bigger. So I can upload an image that is blank. Okay, so I've got a 600 by 400 PNG image here. There's nothing in that image. It is just blank. And it is really just for the purposes of adding some space to the in-app messages. So just waiting for this to save. Save. Not sure what happened there. 400. Save and oh, okay. Okay. So congrats, you uploaded your first photo. The image is there, but it's because it's a transparent PNG, you can't see it, but it helps make my message a bit taller. So it's a bit of a, there's some tricks that you can do with in-app messaging, and that would be one of them. Okay, cool. So spent a lot of time talking about that. Let's bounce back to our presentation. I will take some questions. Okay, so we designed a couple of these. We didn't get to some of these. There's like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. But I want to make sure I share these helpful resources. So a lot of what you've seen today was just me downloading graphics and different designs. It wasn't me designing things myself. So let me point out a few of these. Envato Elements, this is a resource where you can download lots of graphics. It is a paid resource, but it is very affordable. I think they charge per month. So you would pay a monthly fee and you can download all the graphics that you want. Okay, so you could essentially sign up for a month. download everything and then cancel your subscription. It's a very useful resource. I use it a lot. Coolors is what we looked at for colors. So if you're generating a color palette and you want to make sure you have some nice colors that work well with each other, take a look at Coolors. Unsplash is for royalty-free photography. So they have a lot of nice photos if you wanted to use a photo. iStock Photo is also royalty-free photography, except it is paid. Unsplash is free, iStock is paid. Giphy is where I would find a lot of GIFs, so animated GIFs. Dribbble is a place for inspiration. It's where designers share a lot of their work. It's also a good place to hire designers. So if you have a bit of a larger budget and you want to get a really nice graphic for your in-app or whatever it is, you can find designers there to hire. Figma is a design tool. So we use Figma at OneSignal to design basically everything. So we use it for product design, we use it for graphic design. You might be familiar with Photoshop or Sketch. It's basically a tool that sits next to them. It's a competing tool. I like it a lot. It's web-based, so it's easy to share things. It also has a very free, generous free offer. So you can sign up and use it for free. It's not like you're paying to use it from the start. The Noun project, this is great for finding icons and glyphs. And undraw.co, this is a nice place to find free illustrations. So these are free graphic illustrations that you can use royalty-free. Okay, so lots of useful resources there. One thing I want to share with you before Q&A, we conduct a lot of user experience research at OneSignal. We appreciate sharing designs early and often with our customers and users to make sure that we capture your feedback and include it in the design process. If you're interested in being involved in this process, please feel free to go to j.mp/OneSignalUX, and you'll be able to add your name to a form, and you'll be on our list. And then that means myself or another designer can reach out for future work. We also will reward you with a gift card for your time if you're chosen to participate. So if you're interested in that, that's j.mp/OneSignalUX. And sorry, one more thing to call out, very important, is our webinar attendees get 10% off the starter plan for the first year. So if you're a webinar attendee, if you're listening to this right now, that means you qualify. Simply sign up for our starter plan and then email support@onesignal.com with the subject line webinar 10%. Okay, so that's just to say thank you for listening and to make sure that you get to try out these cool features. Okay, cool. So let me take a look at the Q&A section. Okay, cool. So are in-app actions possible? Let me just stop sharing the screen and I'll put myself on. Okay, cool. Stop share. Cool. Are in-app actions possible? So yes. So whenever you for the button, for the body, and for the button, body, and what was the other thing? Button, body, and image. Yes, you can add an action name, so that action will trigger whatever action that you have coded in your app. Can I use a video for 7 seconds? Can I use a video for 7 seconds? Not sure what that means exactly. If you have any follow-up questions or things that I'm not answering, feel free to email support@onesignal.com and we'll definitely respond to your question. Okay, let's see. Let's looking through some more. Can we add GIFs to the background? Yep, we covered that. Will the full screen message be cut by the notch of the phone in Android? I believe not. I know we did a lot of testing on that, and we tested a lot of devices, and we definitely looked through notch situations. So that should not happen. But there's different devices getting released all the time. If you do come across one that looks awkward, please report it, but that should not be an issue. Can I get a recording? Because I need to jump off. Yep, this recording will be available on our website later this week, I believe. Can top and bottom banners be swiped up bottom to close? Yes. Yes, so we've built in swipe interactions. So depending on the message type, top and bottom can be swiped up and down. And I know the modal position can be swiped down. I think we are consistent with the behavior of the different devices. So whatever you would expect on iOS or Android, it behaves like so. How frequently can we send these notifications to customers? Yeah, so this is it's a very powerful feature that so you can essentially spam your customers, which would be bad. So you want to be very careful how you set up these in-app messages. That's why we've been very particular with our triggers and our segments. You want to make sure that you're sending them at the right time. So if you're sending a please rate us in the App Store, you don't want to send that immediately as soon as the user opens the app for the first time. You probably want to target someone that's been using the app, ideally in the context of them completing something or doing something nice. So you want to really consider, when you trigger these in-app messages. You could set up a lot of in-app messages in a row. So you could do something like if you wanted to do an onboarding series, you could set something like that up. Okay, cool. I'll wait for one more minute, and then if there's no more questions, again, if you want to follow up afterwards with questions, you can send them to support@onesignal.com, and we'll be happy to respond. Okay, cool. So we're 50 minutes in. I really appreciate everyone joining this. It's been fun to demo this, and I hope those design tips and advice were useful and those resources. Again, if anyone wants to take advantage of being part of user experience research, that's j.mp/OneSignalUX. And everyone that was on this call, if you upgrade, you get 10% off your first year. You just need to send an email to support@onesignal.com with the subject webinar 10%. Okay, this video will be available on our website or blog later this week. And thank you all for joining.